I think it's really about mindset. I wasn't, I was trying to be an athlete my youth, and I played ice hockey, I played different things, and then in college I got into some endurance sports. I was never really good at it at all, but we did some of these multi-day races where you go multiple days with no sleep, and I kind of sucked on the first day, but then on the third day I was really good. I was like, wow, that's interesting. Like, I mean, I was by far the least conditioned person in one team, and then they were like tracking me along for the first day and a half, and then on the second and third day I was doing pretty well. So that was like, wow, there's something kind of in me that I can keep going maybe after even the other people are not going anymore. And then I mean in business it's just about like I said, putting the foot after other. And it's pretty slow. Everything happens slow. It's not like, a sprint. It's always a marathon.
Welcome to episode 160. My guest is Ari Tulla, a San Francisco-based serial entrepreneur. After years of family health struggles, Ari has helped over 100 million people gain better access to healthcare throughout his different companies. As the CEO of Quest Analytics, the market leader in doctor data and network management, he led the company through a pivotal growth stage from 15 million to 14 million USD in revenue. He co-founded and was the CEO of Better Doctor, a doctor search engine that raised 30 million USD from first-tier investors. In June 2018, Better Doctor was acquired by a private equity firm. Today, he is the co-founder and CEO of Hello Health, AI personalization engine delivering the exact nutrients to live better. In a previous life, Ari was head of Nokia's game and application studios here in Finland. In this episode, he shares some of his entrepreneurship journey from age 18 and how he became stronger and never gave up despite the adversities along the journey. He also admits that despite having over 25 years of successful entrepreneurship, he still struggles with finding himself as the bottleneck of his business. I've kept on saying it, the bottleneck is real. But join the conversation to find out more. Hi Ari, thank you very much for joining me. I know it's very early in the morning for you in the US.
Hey Laurent, great to be here.
So it's very funny because you're a Finnish guy in the US and I'm a French guy in Finland.
Yeah, I think it's really funny when we first connected. I was laughing out loud.
So you have a very interesting journey. You studied it at the age of 18, and I'm talking about your entrepreneurial journey here. So back at the age of 18, that was 1999, in a small Finnish city called Vaasa, where you were a student. Then you went into the corporate life. You worked for BAT, Nokia. You left. Somewhere along the way, you moved to the US. I'm not sure when. Then you created 3 companies, exited 1. I also know that you have invested in 50 companies together with your wife. Some of them are doing extremely well. So that's quite the journey. So if you had to summarize it into one compelling lesson, what would it be?
Yeah, I have had multiple different tracks, and it's been a really fun journey so far. I'm 45 today, so I'm kind of in the middle age, I think. I hope not, but in an averages it is, maybe even later. But I think the one lesson I have had is that you just need to keep going. I really like what Nike did back in the days and said that just do it. I mean, that's a really great concept, because if you stop doing, if you procrastinate, nothing will happen. But if you keep putting the foot after another, you're actually going to get somewhere. And that's always what I try to do. When things get hard, as they always do, when things don't go in the right way, or when you get into adversity, then you just need to keep going. And I mean, I'm maybe not a great example in a way that I don't really give up easily. So I used to have, I met one designer at Nike who was designing the sneakers, and he was leading the Nike ID, the Nike customized line. And I was a roommate with him in one event, maybe a TED conference or somewhere. and he heard about my story and kind of the don't give up mentality. And he sent me Nike shoes that had like Nike ID, and they were named by name. And at the sole or somewhere it says, one shoe says never, another one says give up. And then he kept sending me those shoes for many years. So I had, I don't know, dozen of pairs of shoes that say never give up. When one of them was like you walk on the snow and you take steps of sand, and it says never give up on every footstep. So that was a funny one, that kind of reminding you about the importance of doing things that way. But also, I mean, I don't think not giving up at all is a wrong thing to do. You also always need to also know to let go sometimes.
Right. That's interesting, and I will come back to that when to give up. Are you talking about, because you live in the US, and the mentality in the US is a lot about hustling. So when you say never give up, are you talking about that? Or are you making a difference between never give up and, the hustle culture?
I mean, I don't know, the hustle is a little bit related to this idea of like growth hacking and these things. So I don't think, hustle has a negative connotation in a way that it's something kind of not permanent, but it's in a time box. You do something and you kind of do it, but you might not have done it in a most ethical manner or in a right way. Because in the end, when you do this for a long time, and I've been now doing this almost 25 years, everything you do will come back to you. There's no way to, do stupid stuff and then, get away with it. You have to stand up. You have to have the right ethics. And I mean, hustle and the growth hacking feels like you are not selling to the customer in the right way, or you are not treating the people you work with in the right way. Because if you hustle in a way, somebody's always the hustled. That's kind of if you go to Vegas, that's kind of how I would read it. And then, somebody will feel that they didn't get what they wanted, or they didn't get what they deserved. And that's the wrong thing to do. And it's interesting the way we talk about this, not specifically about this topic, but we talk about the idea that longevity and kind of the how you behave matters a lot. And I'm super lucky to have, the same co-founder now, fourth time or third time, having, couple of, team members who are vital people in the team who are now working for me in a fourth company already. And I mean, that's pretty cool to me, because, that's longevity, and that's really like, bonding with people and making work to be something more than just work. It becomes your life.
Yeah. And it's kind of a testament to your leadership skills, I guess.
I don't know about that, but at least, I haven't been hustling them.
So what is your secret to never give up? Because as an entrepreneur, sometimes, you want to. It's easy to say that.
I think it's really about mindset. And I wasn't, I was trying to be an athlete in my youth, and I played ice hockey, I played different things. And then in college, I got into some endurance sports. I was never really good at it at all, but we did some of these multi-day races where you go multiple days with no sleep. And I kind of sucked on the first day, but then on the third day, I was really good. I was like, wow, that's interesting. Like, I mean, I was by far the least conditioned person in one team. And then, they were like tracking me along for the first day and a half. And then on the second and third day, I was doing pretty well. So that was like, wow, there's something kind of, in me that, I can keep going maybe after even the other people are not going anymore. And then, I mean, in business, it's just about, like I said, putting, the foot after other, and it's pretty slow. Everything happens slow. It's not like, a sprint. It's always a marathon. And I've been thinking about that a lot, and I've been reading quite a bit, just, last few years about these feats of endurance of man and woman. And it's on the top of my mind because yesterday I watched the movie A Naiad, which is the woman who was, I think, 65, and she swam from Cuba to Florida.
Yeah.
And nobody had ever done it before. People had tried. And it's unbelievably difficult to swim 104 miles, but also being in the open ocean where you have currents and conditions and weather and sharks and all sort of stuff. And she did it after, I think, fifth try or something. And then I was just reading a book from David Goggins, and he is this sort of like, maybe the fittest person in the world who had a horrible upbringing, really tough childhood in every possible way, almost like torture. And then he became this machine in a way, and he became an ultra runner. He became a Navy SEAL. He experienced a lot. So, I mean, those stories are, of course, very different than in business. We are not, cutthroat or about to die. But I believe that there's something in that world where we're going to be going all in endurance sports, for example, that you can learn something about yourself that you didn't know before. And the last, I don't know, almost decade, I've been doing this Japanese thing that once a year you do something really big and difficult, like it could be a activity or it could be something else. It started, I don't know, 1,000 years ago when some monks, they started to go once a year into the cold waterfall, and they went under it in the winter, and they stayed like 25 minutes until you were almost dead under a cold waterfall, ice around you, and that was called misogi. And now it's this sort of concept that people talk about, and I read about it a long time ago, and then I started to do it once a year, and last year I was first time I failed my misogi, and I didn't know what to think about it, but I picked.
What did you try to do last year?
So I mainly done like different type of like endurance things, and I've been doing, like, I walked 1 year 100 plus miles in a weekend. So barely walked like 50 hours straight, not sleeping. 1 year we did we waded the river, so we swam in the river for like 30 kilometers or something. And of course, miles in a walk, 160 kilometers of walking. A weekend is a long walk, and then I was climbing, El Capitan and in Yosemite. Never finished completely, but done parts of it. But yeah, last year I wanted to do. I've been cycling a lot lately, and I wanted to bike 500 kilometers in 36 hours. And I was right on the pace, but bit over halfway point, my knee buckled, and it wasn't like biking on a flat land. I was biking and I was planning to do all the hills in the Bay Area. So it was about 10,000 meters of climbing on a bike and 500 kilometers. So like a double Tour de France, big estates in a day. And I'm able to do it, but it was really cool to try. And I mean, not many people have done that because cycling is something that you can go. Anyone can go 200 kilometers, but when you go 500 and you add the uphills, it gets pretty difficult. But those are kind of things that I mean, kind of callousing my mind in a way, or making my mind, to be able to tolerate more. Because the fact is that you learn it in endurance sports that you can go much further than you can think of. And same thing I think applies to business. When everybody else is like, what can we do now? I mean, you can always find a way, and it's just about spending the time.
Oh, absolutely, I agree with you. I mean, I've talked to many entrepreneurs now. Strongly believe that entrepreneurship is a mindset, and the best entrepreneurs are not better because they have better skills than others. They have a better mindset. Like you said, they don't give up. They try and try and try. They fail and they try again. But sometimes you have to give up. This is what you were saying earlier. So when do you know it's time to give up?
Well, I think that's also about what you want to do. I mean, you have to have, of course, you can't be super stubborn and have this kind of very, very, powerful mindset to go through the stone and the wall. And that's a very Finnish way to think about it. Because in Finland, we talk about the sisu, and I mean, I don't know if we have any sisu left, to be fair. I mean, it's almost the same as, I mean, I grew up in northern Finland, and, I did these things that, I was Nordic skiing and competing, for example, in my youth, and the sisu was always there. We talked about it. And then you move to the US, and I lived now in the US for 16 years in California, very different, like not sisu, it's more like a sun and, beach type place.
Yeah.
But here we talk all about the equality, and we talk about the opportunity. I mean, America is the land of opportunity. And that's complete bullshit now. I mean, like, there's way less opportunity in the US if you are born poor and in the wrong place or wrong color. You have way more opportunity in Finland, for example, if you are born poor and maybe even different color. So we have this mindset in the US that this is the land of opportunity. Yes, it maybe was a generation ago, but no longer. And those are the kind of things that stick. And then in Finland, I think we take the sisu a bit too literally, and we believe in it as a concept. And then we are too stubborn. Having sisu is not like being stubborn. It's not the same thing. So you always need to think about like, where do you want to go in life? What do you want to do? And sometimes, there's a time to do something. And, I spent, 5 years at Nokia. That took me to the US when I was building a new unit in the US. I came to build it here in the Bay Area. And then, I spent 10 years, almost 9.5 years, I think, on the doctor or healthcare discovery access front. I felt better doctor, and then I was building Quest Analytics. But for me, decade was a long time. That's, maybe a tenth of your life. And I didn't want to do that anymore. That's why I was investing in other companies. That's why I was looking for other type of companies, maybe advising or being a board member. And I felt that, I want to do something different. And that's why in the end left. I could have probably stayed. Maybe, the company is still running strong, and, we are close to 100 revenue now. And, they would like to go public at some point. But, some people would have stayed and, really want to get the flag on your resume that, you took a company public yourself, and, you go to ring the bell in NASDAQ. That's pretty cool. But that was not at all, what I wanted to do. I wanted to build new companies. I much rather be in the 0 to, let's say, 30, not 0 to 1, but 30 million revenue space. That's, I know that well. I can do that really well. But I'm not the guy who necessarily wants to run the $250 million company and, have 1,000 employees. That doesn't give me anything. It just takes my ability away to work on things that I really care about. Do I care about politics and the everyday grind of that? So that's not me. Most people, if you take a public company CEO, you put them in my position to build a new company from scratch, they can do nothing. They don't have any of the skills. Their skills are very different. They're valuable skills, but they don't have the skills. And I felt that I was losing my skills that I'm the best at. I've been honing all my life, which is what you need in the beginning of a company.
I feel like what you're talking about is it encompasses a lot of self-awareness. You have to know yourself very well to understand when it's time to give up. So that's what you're saying between the lines.
Yeah, I think that's of course the key, and of course also in being the never give up mentality. You also need to know you, because how many people go too far? How many people burn out? There's a lot of talk lately about and books written about the entrepreneurship, the idea that people, it's so cool and sexy, and we have many people who become entrepreneurs who have no idea what it is, and then they quit very quickly, and they get scars for the rest of their lives about it, because people think like the VCs are sharks, and then they blame the system, or they blame the a lot of people write about the CEOs are these sharks, and there's this new movement about bootstrapping companies being like this new thing. Come on, like that's the way people did every company before. It was VCs. And VCs are just a vehicle among others. It's like you can't blame the bank if you take too big of a mortgage and you lose a job and you lose the house. It's not the bank's fault. Come on, dude. So I think we don't take accountability today in the world. We suck at it. And even the US, like people talk about this bootstrapping yourself up, like take from the bootstraps. Come on, that's the language. People are so weak and so sensitive today about this. So I think we really need a bit more of that sort of a mindset in the world where I'm responsible for what I do. If I fail, it's my responsibility. It's not the world or the society or my teacher or my spouse or my boss. It's my fault. I didn't do stuff well. Sometimes things can happen and the world can be unfair. But if you really look into this, most times it is your fault. And you need to do something about it. And that is kind of the thinking that, if you understand that, then I think you can go until you can't go anymore, if you know yourself. Or then you're going to quit and do something different, because there's a million things you can do in the world. Like I was just telling my wife yesterday that how funny is it that, we've been living here for so long, and we are in San Francisco, like middle of this whole boom. What has happened in that time? I was, of course, involved at Nokia when we invented the smartphone, and then, later I worked a lot of, apps and stuff. So I took advantage of the app economy, the mobile economy that made me. But then, what has happened after is all these things like cloud computing. I really haven't done much there. Now the AI is happening. We are deploying AI in my new company. But, you don't have to be building your own company. I could have worked in, every one of these companies because you have the resume to go work in any company you want. So I could have been at Google at the right time, or I could have been at Facebook at the right time. I could have now kind of open AI. And I haven't done that because I'm stubborn in a way. I built these own things. And it's not really the way to make money. I have plenty of friends of mine who have made a lot more money by working in these big companies at the right time, to go early enough and then crawl like a hockey stick. And they have more impact than probably I can have ever now, because if you are in Google today and you are maybe like SVP or in the management there, I mean, the impact you have is unbelievable because you have billions of users. And, building a startup and having hundreds of millions of users is very, very, very difficult to do. Almost nobody succeeds. There are a few handful of people who have ever done that. So getting to impact, the best way to get impact is to build a company and sell it to big company and pick a role where you can do it. That's a fact of life.
It's especially our generation, because we're the same generation. When we started, there was no possibility to build companies as big as Google today because the internet was not there yet. And so that, the new generation, the digitalization of the economy has created such opportunities to scale up. Another word I'm using, scaling up.
But I think just a quick cover there. I think we do have, I'm living in the place where you do have multiple generations of this, because it started here. It all started here. The Intels of the world were the first companies, and they were funded by venture capitalists. The venture capitalist idea was invented, 20 miles away from here. So in a way, this is the only place in the world where you can talk to somebody who is 80, and they were venture capitalists, and they were investing in companies. And, one guy who I know, he was investor of the Hamilton Packard, HP. And I was sitting once in a room here a few years ago, and I had the Mr. Hewlett and Mr. Packard, were sitting there with me in the room. I mean, those are the founders of that company, HP. And how many people remember that? It's 60, 70 years old. But that to me was really cool that, this is the place where you have that. But in Finland and Europe, I mean, this is very new. This is really, we are the first generation who is now kind of seeing the fruits of this.
True. And in Finland, I've been meeting so many people who came, like you, like yourself, came out of Nokia. I mean, it must have been quite a journey when you guys were at Nokia when Nokia created the mobile phone. I remember my first mobile phone was this Nokia. It was unbreakable. You guys must have had great time working there.
And there's the movie that came out, or the TV series, 5 series, was it Mobile 101 or something like that in the US. Really good. I mean that's of course way before my time. That was the beginning when Nokia went from being paper pulp company and TVs and stuff into the mobile world. So Jorma did amazing work at doing that pivot. But I was there when we were the biggest company in the world of value. We were $350 billion company, I believe. It was the number one company in the whole world at the valuation at that time. And it was very interesting. And later looking at it, we should have been much more humble about it. But you never know when you're writing history, when you are doing it. That's what, Obama has said many times, that people asked him, right after his term or during he was president, that, what is the thing that you're going to be remembered for? And he always said that, let the history write itself. It's hard to know. And when you now look at the stories, unfortunately, I think we're going to have a Trump who might be a second-time president soon, who will have, you take an encyclopedia, if we have those in the future. You take it and Obama might have, a few pages, and Trump will have 5 pages. So Trump will be in history probably a more notable person than Obama, who was doing unbelievable thing, on breaking the barriers of, race and different things. And I think he was a great orator, but he didn't get much done as a president. But Trump, again, is like a big mess, and people like to write about that. So that's an interesting thing, like what is the important thing? But Nokia was a huge thing for Finland, and I think the Nokia had quite a good team. I mean, there was a lot of good people, a lot of good engineering talent that was at Nokia, not only from Finland, but and it made Finland much more open place. Finland was a very different place when I started studying in '98. 2000, I went to study in the US for 1 semester, and I was one of the few people who had done that from Vaasa. I mean, we were the first ones ever from there to go to US. There were a couple of people from Helsinki Kauppakorkeakoulu, and then I think Aalto, before it was Helsinki Yliopisto, who had done that before. But nobody went to US to study. People had come to Europe a lot because US is tough because you had to pay $30,000 tuition every year, and they did a deal where they took us for free, and the universities were really, really poor, really bad. I mean, it was like laughable almost. But I wanted to go there or come here because I wanted to kind of experience the different world. And then I realized that the people were not very good at all. So I mean, I felt that coming from Finland, you are totally equal or better than being the US.
And for people who listen to us who are not familiar with Finland, Finland is a country of 5.5 million people only. So it's very small. It's a very small country. So Nokia was at the golden age was absolutely huge in comparison to the country. When we
same by the way, what's happening now it's interesting that if you think about Nordic countries now in Denmark never really has had anything big. They've been this sort of very stable economy with a lot of multiple different industries. They have the design industry and so forth. And now they have a company, Novo Nordisk, that is more valuable than Nokia was at the heyday. Of course, we can take the inflation, but I think still today, if you take the inflation, Novo is more valuable than Nokia was ever. And what happened now in Denmark, they're talking about this same thing. Are we going to have the Nokia problem? What we do? They're looking at the playbook from Finland on what could they do. And the funny thing is that they just a month ago, the country gave a profit warning that they have too much tax income. I mean, I don't think any country has ever done that before. Yeah, so the government was, because I think it's they pay a lot of tax into Denmark on profit, and I think there's also some linkage on owning. I think the government maybe owns some of it. But anyway, they were getting too much money from the company, so they had to scale up the tax base. So they had too much tax coming in.
Wow. I imagine the French government doing the same. Not? When we first met, you mentioned something interesting. You said it's important to look at the breaking point. Can you clarify what you are talking about?
Yeah, so there's, of course, I mean, I often talk about, people ask me about, kind of business. I mean, I often talk about a few things. I talk about funnels. You run many parts of business in funnel perspective. So you have a marketing funnel, sales funnel, hiring funnel, even engineering funnel could be one word to use. So those are kind of ways how you manage these different threads. And then also you need to have, plan setting. I like, OKRs and that type of method where you set goals every quarter and then you set annual goals. You break the big problems into small pieces and you make them understandable. But the breaking points, I think, are more about the company growth. And I don't think there's a lot of people in, Finland, for example, and Europe, fewer people, I think, than here who have actually built companies in a way that you go from the, 2 people, the founders, you go to the, 50 to 70 people, or maybe even 30 to 50 people. When you have to change the way you operate, you have to add, management layers. You can't do everything yourself. You need to have a leadership team. And then when you go from that into, to 200 to 500 people, you have these breaking points there that, you need to build another layer of management, because it's just, in a way, you can't have too many people reporting to you. I mean, yes, we can hear that Elon Musk has 35 people reporting to him or whatever. That's bullshit. You can't do it that way. I mean,
you said it.
No, but the way people are just, nobody will get the time. I mean, you have to have unbelievably good people who can. Yeah, people have to be able to kind of I think the people who are reporting to him probably are super good people. But normally, I think, there has to be coaching, there has to be management, there has to be this sort of cultivation. And, if you have more than 8, 9 people reporting to you, that's pretty difficult. And it's been interesting when, we had those breaking points at Better Doctor and Quest. And of course, at Nokia, I saw the same thing when we had, these big organizations where we had 130,000 people at Nokia. And it was like, are we going to be a matrix? Or are we going to be, some type of other organization? A lot of debate about that. I don't think anyone knows. It's a flavor. But my point is that you need to be very careful when you go to the 50 people and you're going to be 75 people. You can raise a lot of money, and then suddenly you realize that you get less done. A lot of companies, they have 40 people. They're super efficient. They have great people, great motivation. Then they raise a big round of funding. They hire 40 more people. There are suddenly 80 people, and then the board is asking you the CEO, the founder, what's going on? Like, I mean, the velocity hasn't increased. And then you go back, look at the data, you look at, output, input, and you realize that we have not done anything more. We have done less now, and we have double more people. Like, what the hell happened? And that's a very common problem. And I mean, extreme example, of course, on this is the Nokia's Symbian platform. So when I was Nokia, we were building on the Symbian mainly. We also had the Maima and Migo, the Linux-based system. But Symbian was, I think we had about 2,000 to 3,000 engineers working on the Symbian. And then, we have Android who comes and eats our lunch, and they had 70 people, 70, think about. And they were able to build the platform far superior.
Yeah.
So number of people doesn't really matter. I think, if you have the 10 best people in tech, if you're building code, I mean, they can outperform 1,000 people easy.
This show is about cracking entrepreneur bottlenecks. So I'm curious, what is one of your current bottlenecks?
I think, of course, you as a founder or the leaders in a company often become bottlenecks if they can't delegate, if they can't give responsibility for the team. And that is, I think, to me, the most common problem. People want to, they want to keep holding the Legos for too long. Use it, share the Legos and let other people play.
Yeah.
Because often you are not as good as the team you have, who are dedicated experts. And I think the biggest problem as a founder is that, you often tend to be good at something, and you might not know exactly what are you good at. You might have a feeling, or that you're really, really good at something, like coding, or you could be really good at design or product. Maybe you're a product manager at, big companies, and you learn a lot. And then you become a CEO, and then, you are the product manager, for example. And then later you hire people, and it gets messy. You maybe have 2 products, and nobody can, run that. So then you need to give the Lego to somebody else, and people often do it too late, and they cause a lot of pain. And often, many people come and go. If you see, that you are hiring a 3rd product manager, and you're like, why do these people leave? Maybe you need to look in the mirror. And for me personally, I think one thing that I was just talking about with my team, and I think I realized that I was causing a bottleneck for no reason, because I've been cultivating a network here for 15, 16 years now in the Valley, and I also have a pretty good network in Europe and also in New York and some in Asia. So, and the investment has helped a lot because I've been looking at few thousand companies and talk to them. And also, been helping pretty deeply some of the companies. So I have a network of people that, I don't know, I know a few thousand people maybe. And I often connect and often use the network as a benefit when we are building something new. And I often tend to start the conversation and then, loop in my team. But I think I need to do more in a way. I just give it to my team, the connection, and then let them run with it. Because if you have to be part of every conversation, it gets like, I get too many emails, I get too much in a mess that, I need to be involved. So and of course, because I feel it's my relationship, so I feel that I need to be involved. So I'm involved in few too many things in that front, I think. And another point of the bottleneck, I think, for me is that, I try to operate in a way that on a daily basis, my task is to delegate, find really good people who can do the work, and give people, point them a direction. That's what I need to do. And of course, I would suppose I need to keep money in the bank so we don't run out of money. That's also important. But that's a given fact. But I mean, the point, how to do that. So I don't love to do it, but I spend almost every morning on unblocking. So I start the morning by going through, messages and emails and whatever we have, and try to unblock everybody. And I do that 2 or 3 times a day. I just look at them and then I unblock. And then often if I need to do write, bigger emails or communicate to people, I often do that late at night and or in the evening when people are kind of off already. But really it's more like, I do a lot of meetings on different things, a bit too many I think now. Zoom is too easy to kind of book on a calendar. Calendly and all those tools, they make it difficult because people can you can't control your time as well. I don't have an assistant now. I want to have a better AI assistant. I have a somewhat okay, but it's not great. But the point that, if you unlock your team every, maybe few hours, then that time won't be wasted. Because it sucks if you have 5 people, waiting for you to make a decision and do nothing. That's a sin.
Yeah, it's interesting that even after 25 years of experience, you still face the bottlenecks.
I think there's no, and it's about organization. When I left Quest and moved in the board role, I think now almost 4 years ago, I had a rounds. I wanted to collect a memo for the new CEO. He's a great guy. He's much better at 50 to 250 million. He can do that. No sweat. He's really good. I wanted to give him a memo of how I think, and I went to talk to every employee. I couldn't do it one-on-one because we had almost 500 people at the time, but we had the groups of 4 or 5 people, and I met everybody over the last quarter, and it was so eye-opening because there were a lot of people I had never met before, or never spoken to before, and because they knew that I'm leaving, I was able to make it completely okay to talk your mind, and I think the word went out that you can talk your mind, and it was more eye-opening than ever before, and I was like, man, I should have done that in the beginning. Because people told me about the bottlenecks, the issues we had, and why can't we move faster. And then I wrote this memo. It turned out to be pretty long, and I don't think the new guy even read it. But it was good for me to do it because it gave me a lot of clarity, and it taught me a lot about my leadership style and how people perceive me. Because I'm a bit of an oddball. I'm from this strange country of Finland, and I'm also this California dude who is surfing and climbing mountains and doing stuff that most people don't even think about, and vacationing in some odd islands in Tahiti or whatever I do. So I'm a bit of an oddball to people, and there's, of course, I learned a lot about this that is linking to the bottlenecks, which is you are a founder, but I was turned into a CEO because we were running a much bigger play, and there's a lot of this sort of a clout of a CEO. And I've known it for a long time, but it's like a mystical thing. And I hadn't really embraced that concept. And I hadn't thought about what it means, how you need to behave. It's very, very difficult to be a CEO in a bigger organization and to be seen as somebody who is not intimidating. And my goal is never to lead with fear, but there's a lot of fear. And but then if you lose the fear completely, how do you then rally up the troops? And I always want to lead from the front. I'm always there. And I'm always willing to do more than other people. That's what I always try to do. And that you learn in a Finnish army. I went to army in the northern, in Lapland, in Finland, and we were out in the wild for a long time, and small teams, and that sort of stuff. And I became a leader even if I wasn't a leader, because I didn't want to stay there. I had another thing to do after. I was going abroad, so I couldn't stay too long. So I ended up being not the leader, and I was being pulled, every week in the beginning to become like a leader trainee, and then I didn't do it because I had the time box not to do it, and I made mistake later in the long term. Would have been fun to do it, but I became a leader without being the leader. And that was a good moment for me when I was a young kid already, that, hey, there's something in you.
Nice. We are going to conclude on those words of wisdom. You are not born a leader, you become one. That's what you say. Thank you very much, Ari, for your time. One more question. How can people contact you?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active on. And I don't really post too much on other social mediums. I feel that like Twitter and others are just too toxic at the moment. It seeps energy. It doesn't give you energy. And if you want to follow, today my current company is called Ilo Health. Ilo means, of course, life in Finnish. And what we do now is we're trying to convert food from the cause of disease to medicine. And I think we are still at the beginning of it. I mean, it's a long haul. This might take a decade. We are in the third year. And now for the first time this year, or this month, we are starting to now take our products, we are currently supplement product company. So we have pills and powders and gummies. We're going to go into hopefully food and meals sometime in the future. But I'm super excited that, we are now taking those products first time ever into medicine and into healthcare. So we are taking them into fertility treatment. We are taking them into the world of weight loss, the GLP-1 drugs that are making, Denmark do wealthy. And the new product we have, it's just super cool. I mean, I have my morning thing ready here. So these are 3D printed gummy vitamins. So first time ever, you can do a blood test and you get a 3D printed, nutrition that is optimized to you. And I find it's it's so fun to bring this learning I have had in the tech for a long time, to bring it into this new, old world of, food and molecules and stuff. So it's been super fun so far, but then this year will be a breakaway year for us. So we're gonna finally start fulfilling the manifest of food becoming medicine, and that you can find a company at elo.health.
Best of luck with 2024 then, and thank you again for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and learned something new about the entrepreneur bottleneck. You can go even further or download my ebook 8 Tactics to Thrive as an Entrepreneur to tackle your bottlenecks and heads-on and propel your business forward. You'll find it on my website laurentautin.com/get my ebook. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.